Get in business to sell your business. Hello, my friend, and welcome to the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today we have author, consultant, speaker, guru, John Warrillow. I've known of John for many years. I've got his book on Audible. The first one, Built to Sell, Creating a Business That Can Thrive Without You. I've recommended that to so many people. He also has The Automatic Customer, Creating a Subscription Business in Any Industry. The first one, Built to Sell, is told as a narrative, like taking you through an actual person, although it was fictional, although it's kind of based on him. But it was cool the way the story's told. I've listened to it multiple times, and it's good stuff. So he has a great story on how he created a business that was able to be sold and why you should look at your business with the idea that you're going to sell it, even if you're not going to sell it anytime soon, because things can change, things will change, but eventually, the more that you have systems in place and processes that are repeatable, things that are based on systems, so you're not the cult of personality, that's what gives you a life, but it's also what adds more value to the company, because you're adding more value to more people, because you have systems in place. You know, Henry Ford could not have built every single Ford. Plus, eventually, he died. And we're all going to die. So approach it that way. We get into some content marketing ideas. Listen for the TVR. Very good stuff. I put it in bold in my notes on the episode, so be sure and check that out. And on each episode, you know, I've got linked. It's my Amazon affiliate link. They pay me a few nickels when you click on those links and check out the books and different offers that our guests have. I've got some cool things in there as well. If you want to automate your sales for $9, if you want to make your marketing magnetic, that is one I recommend. That's in the footer of all of my blog posts. So check those out. Click around so I can make a couple of nickels and put a roof over the head of these 7 children, a wife, myself, and crazy Maisie the lab. But hey, stay tuned. I'm going to be talking about some upcoming workshops I'm going to be doing, bringing out the old webinar for the art of the close. I'm going to be doing some live sessions as part of the Make Every Sale program. So be sure and subscribe to my newsletter. So when I send out an announcement, you'll see it. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you hang out, LinkedIn, so you can be notified. The webinars will be free. The 7-part series I want to do on the Make Every Sale, I've done these before. It's been years since I've done them. It's going to be at a super affordable price, and you can bring a guest as well. So you'll want to check that out. That's how I got my start. 2006, started with I think it was a 12-week class back then for $600. No web presence, no video, no private group. It was phone calls and a PDF document. Changed my life. And I'm bringing you the same ideas, the same concepts, the same structure that Steve taught me. Steve was a guest on the Sales Podcast. I got to catch up with him in person back in January in Florida. But it'll change your life as well. So stay tuned for the Make Every Sale announcement, the Art of the Close webinar. And if you're not seeing it, like I said, hit me up online. I've got our free group, The Implementors. Come hang out with us on Facebook. I'll be putting announcements there as well. So theimplementors.com will take you right to the free private group. Now, let's bring on John. John Warrillow, all the way from Toronto, multiple author. Man, but I read something, you can get into the minds of small business owners. Oh my gosh, welcome to the Sales Podcast. Where you been all my life?
It's good to be here, Wes. Thank you.
I just want free therapy, man. I'm reading on your profile. You help Fortune 500 businesses get into the mind of small businesses. I got my daughter in the room. Should we really get into my mind? I think that could be a little ugly.
Yeah, no, that's definitely not cool. Let's leave that let's leave that for another day for sure. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I've been a fan of yours. I appreciate your work. Man, cool. If I got a nickel for everyone I told about Built to Sell, I would have a lot of nickels.
Oh, great. Well, I appreciate that.
That was a great book. I've got it on audio. I've listened to it so many times. And, the concept for our listeners that haven't tuned in or haven't, we're linking to you. So go get the book. You've got a second one out. We'll talk about the automatic customer.
Sure.
But that Built to Sell, because I'm a solo guy, right? I've got contractors. I've never had a W-2 employee. I've got people that fulfill the things that I sell. But you got me thinking along how, not that I want to sell right now, but hey, everything has a price, right? If somebody, came and offered me $10 million, I'd take it. You know what? If y'all are thinking about it, if you have like $5 million, I'll take it. But anyway, you outlined, and of course I want to talk about both books, but you outlined how someone can think about their business, creating a business that can thrive without you. Can you give us a little lead up into that? What led you to write that book? And then what can our listeners take away from that? What can they apply, for their own business?
Yeah, I mean, I've been involved in a few businesses. One I can remember was a market research and graphic design company. We did marketing services, and I was looking to have somebody invest in the business. And I had a couple of advisors, and I went to them and said, "Hey, could you invest in this business?" Remember, we had about $1 million in revenue, about $150,000 in profit. And at the time, the other marketing agencies on the stock exchange were trading for like 20 times earnings. So I figured, okay, I got $150,000 times 20. So maybe I got a $3 million business here, 10% of which is probably $300,000. So why don't you give me $300,000 for 10%? And they kind of laughed me out of the room and said, there's no way you're worth 20 times earnings. In fact, you're worthless because you actually have no value because your business is so deeply dependent on you personally that for this thing to run, it needs you. So the company isn't worth anything. And that was sort of a very stark reminder and an early sort of warning for me early on. This was 25 years ago now. That for a business to be valuable, it has to be valuable without you personally, the owner. And I started this kind of journey, made a bunch of changes, and it really kicked off this journey for me that's been a 25-year odyssey in building kind of more valuable businesses.
Right. And that's the example you give in the book, was a graphic designer that was taking any and all jobs, and you were like, hey, how can we productize, systematize this to work without us?
Yeah, it's exactly right. I mean, one of the things that we fall victim to, I think, as entrepreneurs is top line revenue growth. We think that our objective should be the P&L. That's the most important document. That's like our report card at the end of the year. How do we do top line, bottom line? And that has us chasing a lot of projects that often aren't contributing to our value. It's like we're running on this hamster wheel, right? So in the book, the story of Alex Stapleton, he's going from doing SEO work to making brochures to creating in-store collateral, all this different marketing stuff. But because he's doing so many things, he can't train anyone to help him. And because he can't train anyone, the business becomes dependent on him. And so the secret to making this kind of problem go away is to actually start selling less things to more people. And that's one of the big steps that everybody who wants to go on this journey of building a more valuable company needs to take, which is to think about all the products and services that you sell and figure out which one can really work without you personally having to deliver it. And then having the discipline, frankly, to kind of focus in on that.
Yeah, I remember years ago, we lived in California over 13 years now, and I did it in Austin before we moved. And my wife, at the time, we'd had 4 kids. We added 3 more since then. We had 4 kids, and she had this wardrobe.
You know how it works, right, Wes?
I very much so. I found the one thing I'm good at, and that's creating little liabilities. But I digress. But she was hanging on to all these clothes, and we did an ambush makeover. Right. I invited all of her girlfriends over. They came over early in the morning on a Saturday and just went through her closet. And we took a picture. We put the baby. It was like a 3-foot pile of clothes because she couldn't let go of it. But her friends, it was easy from the outside looking in saying, that's old. That's out of style. Never, blah, blah, blah. And I gave them money. They went shopping. They went to lunch. So can we, like shopping or like a tire? Can we do it on our own, or do we have to get somebody from the outside looking in saying, dude, you offer 497 things. Like, you should probably have 6 things you sell.
Yeah. I think it's easier with an outside advisor doing that, like your daughter found. I think if you're doing it yourself, use something called TVR. So basically put all the products and services that you sell today up on a whiteboard and give them a score on teachable, valuable, repeatable, TVR. So give them a score out of 10 on teachable. So rate your product on how teachable it is to employees. Number 2, give it a score on valuable, meaning how valuable is that product or service coming from you in the eyes of your customers. And the opposite of valuable is commodity. So you want something that's really different, distinguished, unique. And then the third component is the R, or repeatable, meaning how often do customers need to buy that? So if it's a coffin or a wedding ring, hopefully you only need to ever buy those things once. That's not going to be a repeatable business model. But what you're looking for is something where customers have a regular cadence through which they buy. And so if you give all your products and services, give them a really close measurement on those 3 criteria, and then you're basically figuring out which products and services are your highest performers on those 3 criteria. And that's the raw material, I believe, to make your business more sellable, more valuable in the eyes of the acquirer.
So you say valuable. So you said if it's coming from me. So meaning, like, could I train somebody and they deliver it and the customer still be happy that they got the information even though it didn't come from me?
Yes, absolutely. So it's coming from your company. Okay. So the best way to think about the definition of valuable is actually thinking about what's not valuable, which is a commodity. So if you've got a service, for example, that you're selling by the hour, or you've got a product you're selling by the pound or by the ounce or by the yard, those are likely to be highly commoditized products. Those are not likely to be ones that are going to create high scoring on this value function. What you're looking for is a product that's really unique coming from you. I'm trying to think of a good example off the top of my head.
But when you say you, just so we're clear, because like I have the sales whisperer, but right now the sales whisperer is me. People have told me I need to create a licensing program, get other certified people, just like a Dale Carnegie or a David Sandler. So are you saying, like, as long as it comes from the sales whisperer umbrella of trainers, then that's valuable?
Exactly. Yes. Okay. For coming from your company. Forgive me, I keep making that mistake, but you're right. Coming from your company.
Okay.
Is exactly right. And that's exactly right. So if you were to, Dale Carnegie built a great business. Anthony Robbins has a great business. These are big personalities with big brands, but they've scaled up so that it's not them doing all the delivery, which is one way to take an information product. It doesn't have to be an information product. In your case, it would be an information product and make it a more sellable asset.
Yeah. And how do we know what's unique, though? It's like when I'm training people, this is really good. I got so much out of it. I'm like, I think it was Sam Snead or Ben Hogan, one of those guys, and they were like, hey, do you inhale or exhale on your backstroke when you're putting? He's like, I don't know. So then he's like trying to analyze himself, and like they said, wrecked him for a while before he got out of his own head. How do we take what's unique and, like, how do I replicate myself?
Ask your customers. You got to ask your customers, right? You got to go to your customers and say, why do you buy from us? Why do you not buy from us? Why do you buy from our competitors? Under what conditions would you buy from us versus them? What do we do really, really well? And what do we do just kind of okay? Where would we be distinct or unique? And where do you have other suppliers that sell you the same stuff? Because a lot of small businesses, they get built in a funny way. The owner is just deeply passionate about what they're delivering. And so they win a customer. And that customer sees on the other side of the table someone who will basically put their head through a wall for them, right? So that the buyer says, wow, if he's this good at selling me widgets, I could get grommets from this guy too, because he put his head through a wall to get me grommets. And pretty soon that one customer is asking you to supply a whole raft of things you never considered supplying. And you might be really distinct or unique on selling the first thing, or even passionate about selling the first thing that you started your business to do. But man, at the 10th and the 20th and the 30th thing, my guess is that you're really just a commodity player in those spaces. But you're chasing the almighty dollar. You're chasing top line revenue because it makes you feel good. Hey, we did $1 million in sales this year, right? But in actual fact, you've done nothing but just stay on the hamster wheel, because the services and products you're selling People, look, when a company comes and looks at making an acquisition, they're making a build versus buy decision, right? They're saying, could we essentially build what this guy's created ourselves for virtually the same price? And if you're selling by the ounce or by the pound or your commodity, they're not going to buy your business. They're going to say, well, if we just undercut this guy by 5%, and basically the decision-making criteria that the buyer is making is price, we can basically put him out of business for the cost of a 5% margin hit. So why do we need to buy his business? Otherwise, the other equation is going to be, wow, they built something totally unique. While we could probably replicate it if we put enough money and time against it, boy, it's probably just faster and easier and cheaper for us if we just buy his company or buy her company. And that's the calculus they're making. So selling all these services really deep and wide may feel good, but it's actually not making your business more valuable.
So coming from Canada, I mean, you've probably suffered and not had enough In-N-Out, but you travel, so I'm going to assume you've had In-N-Out hamburgers. Is that a safe assumption?
I've never had an In-N-Out.
Oh my gosh!
I know.
We may have to end this interview. I mean, I thought you were like a man of a cosmopolitan individual, but so In-N-Out. So it was started here in Southern California. My father-in-law worked for them when he was a kid. But I mean, all they do is hamburgers, kind of like McDonald's back in the day, right? Sure. You can get a hamburger, you can get a cheeseburger, you can get them with or without onions, you can get French fries, you can get sodas, and you can get shakes. That's it. You want a grilled cheese sandwich for your kid? Go to McDonald's, right? You want chicken? Go to McDonald's. Go to Kentucky Fried Chicken, right? But they just do burgers.
Perfect. We got a place up in Canada called Weber's. So here's the deal. I will take you to Weber's when you come to Toronto. Okay. You take me to In-N-Out when I come to Southern California.
All right, deal. Hold on. I'm going to Expedia.com. Let me see, book my flight. Okay, all right, I'm back. But on the other hand, McDonald's, right? They, I watched that movie, The Founder, with Michael Keaton, on Ray Kroc. Very interesting story. They dialed it in, right? How to make a burger fast. I mean, they were efficient. They invented their own, condiment dispensers. Bang, they could hit multiple things at once. But now you can get tea and coffee and chicken and salads and yogurt and on and on and on. So when do you know that the time is right to add another revenue stream?
Yeah, when you have all the money in the world, essentially. Like McDonald's basically has clearly billions and billions of dollars that they pour into marketing, and they can support a variety of different products and services. You can make the same argument about Nike as an example, right? They've got Nike shoes, Nike golf, Nike tennis. Absolutely. And if you have as much money as Nike or as much money as McDonald's, then by all means support those brands and those products. Most of the business owners that I know are more like In-N-Out back in your father-in-law's days, right? A couple of locations, trying to carve out a living, trying to build something that can basically get them out of having a job and into having a company. And if that's the spot that you find yourself in, I'm telling you that spreading yourself so thin that you're doing chicken and fish fingers and grilled cheese sandwiches and all the other stuff is a recipe to staying that small. Because you can't, the problem is you can't train people to do it, right? You may have the passion for doing all, grilled cheese sandwiches and salads and so forth, but it's very difficult to get a $10 an hour worker to have the same degree of passion, right? You can basically tell them to depress the ketchup 3 inches and do it exactly the same way every time, which is basically what you have to do with the $10 an hour worker. And that's really what you need to do, is that less things to more people. And that's a big headspace shift for a lot of entrepreneurs. Yeah.
And so is that where your next book, did it kind of lead into that, creating the automatic customer, creating a subscription business? Because I have my own subscription. I try to help people do the same thing because me personally, it's funny. My business grew selling software, other people's software, selling Infusionsoft, selling HubSpot, selling Entreport. I get nice commission checks for being a certified partner of these companies. And then now I'm building my own, standalone subscriptions, but it's not easy. It
is not easy, but it is worth it. Here's the deal. At Value Builder, we look at the drivers of company value, and we've seen there are 8 unique value drivers of the company. And we measure them, we quantify them. So basically, the average person coming into to Value Builder scores a 59 out of a possible 100 on our questionnaire. Those that achieve a score of 90 or greater, so these would be our all-stars, the best performers, are getting more than twice that for their business of an average performing business. So if you've got $1 million of profit and you're trading it 3 times versus 6 times, I mean, I don't need to do the math to tell you that's a huge delta. So what drives value? Recurring revenue, in short, drives value. Because when an acquirer buys your company, they're going to want to know, how's this thing going to perform without Wes, right? So if everything relies on Wes, then that's a problem. But if you've got subscriptions, recurring revenue that are contractually obligated or simply just never-ending or evergreen subscriptions, they're going to look at that, take a sigh of relief, and say, this business will continue without Wes. So that's why they pay so much more for subscription revenue. I mean, I looked at security recently. So security companies have 2 forms of revenue. They've got the monitoring revenue, which is the recurring revenue, and then they've got the installation revenue, which is when they come in and wire up the keypads in your home or your office and do all the sensors. Today, they'll pay about 75 cents for every dollar of installation revenue that you have. So if you want to sell $1 million company and all you do is install security systems, it's probably worth about $750,000 today. By contrast, they will pay $2 for every dollar of monitoring revenue you have. So that same $1 million security business, and all you do is monitor the systems, that recurring $39 a month we all pay, is worth $2 million. It's almost 3 times more valuable. And that's because acquirers love recurring revenue. And that's what we talked about in that book. It's just, how do you take a business that's maybe not normally structured around recurring revenue and make it based on annuity-based or subscription-based revenue?
Right. So like an example I like to use in my interviews is like a chiropractor, because I think that can be hard at times. It's easy for people to think that's hard.
It's easy to be, okay, got it, yeah.
Right, like, oh, that doesn't apply to the chiropractic space. But I mean, how would a chiropractor, because a good friend of mine is a chiropractor with a business client, how would he create a subscription model?
Yeah, so a few ways. So you could say, look, you come see, you got a bad back, it's systemic. It happened because you had a car accident a few years ago, and you've got to have a treatment every 2 weeks. If you don't have a treatment every 2 weeks, if you forget or you go a month, it becomes a real problem for you. So let's structure a system where every 2 weeks, on the third Thursday of the month, you come in at 3:00, and I will guarantee you that space. I'll make sure that I've got your coffee ready for you the way you like it when you leave, and that space is always yours. I will never sell that space, so that you can book your calendar and ensure that you've got that 3:00 Thursday appointment. You don't ever have to call me to confirm it. In fact, it's just you and I know that that's the time you're coming in. And by the way, I'm just going to bill you once a month. You can cancel it at any time, but since we know when you're coming in, I'm going to bill you once a month, and that's just the way we'll structure our relationship. And that way you can make sure that you never have that crippling back pain before. So that's just one of the 9 subscription models. That's called Simplifier, where you're basically taking preventative or preemptive action by simplifying the customer's life. There are 8 different models you can choose from, but that's one example of how you'd simplify it. Again, it's a hassle to book a chiropractor appointment, right? You got to figure out your time. You got to see if you're available, see if she or he is available, et cetera. It's a hassle. Whereas if we just agree that that's the time, it makes it much more it makes it simpler for them. And that's one of the 9 subscription models.
Now, what about the chiropractor that thinks, well, my patients only want to see me, and I built this bond, and if I expand, then maybe I lose some customers because I can't see everybody, and I'm the limit to my growth.
Yeah, and you have a job, not a company.
Yeah,
I don't mean to be brutal about it, but you don't have a sellable company. You don't have, and that could be fine because as a chiropractor, you probably make a great living. You have all sorts of write-offs, and you can, and that's totally fine. I think the tragedy is, and I'm sure you've seen this in your own work, Wes. I think the tragedy is when people think they're building a sellable company, they reinvest all their profits for decades after decades, thinking that, I'll make the money when I sell. I'll take care of myself when I sell. I'll get my retirement when I sell, only to find in 20, 30 years, they've built nothing more than a job. So if you want to see your patients and you want to be a practitioner and you don't want to lose that touch, that's fine. but pay yourself fairly. Make sure that you're pulling all that money out of the company every year. Don't reinvest in the company. Pay yourself, because you've got to build assets out of the company. Because guess what? When you go to sell your chiropractic clinic, it's not worth anything. It really is. I mean, maybe you sell your customer list. Maybe you can do some sort of earn out over a period of 7-5 years, but it's not a sellable company. So you got to make sure you're paying yourself. Again, I think the tragedy is when you think you're building a sellable company and you defer payment for decades, and then all of a sudden you turn around at 50, 60, 70 years old and your company's worthless.
Right. Amen. Well, and you sprinkled something in there too, talking about locking in a time. You'll have the coffee ready. I mean, anybody can create a premier level of service. Perry Marshall talked about the 80-20 rule, right? I mean, take your service, and if you add a 0 to the end of it, 20% of your customers will probably buy it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you another example. I did a talk recently. I get all the best gigs. It was to the Car Wash Owners Association.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, in Las Vegas. Can you imagine? So I go to this. There's 2,000 car wash owners, and you think car wash? How on earth are you going to create a subscription business out of car washes?
Oh, we got them everywhere here.
It's a huge deal, right?
Everywhere.
Yeah. And so the car wash thing is fun. A beautiful sunny day in April in Toronto where the people have had salt in their cars. I mean, there's a lineup to get, your car washed. But a brutally cold day in November, no one has you could go weeks without someone using your car wash, right? So how do you level out that?
Right.
That billing platform. Well, it's a subscription model, right? And so how do you do that? Well, in the case of a lot of guys, Mr. Car Wash is an example of them. They're creating subscription offerings. So they're saying, look, unlimited, come in $10 a month, $20 a month, and you can get an unlimited subscription. You might say, well, why would they do that? Again, because they're getting that revenue throughout the winter as opposed to just in the months that people do car washes. But they've got an express lane, and that's one of the other models, subscription models. We call it front of the line. Again, there are 9 of them. This is the second one. Front of the line basically says, look, as a subscriber to our service, you jump to the top of the queue. So in the case of Mr. Car Wash, they have a dedicated lane just for people who have a subscription. So the punters have to wait in line on that cold morning in April, right? It's 15 cars deep, but subscribers tuck right in. And that's called front of the line. And so the subscription software guys have been nailing this for years. So like if you subscribe to Salesforce.com or Infusionsoft, right, and you don't buy the service package, you get a support ticket and you might get a response in 3 days, maybe, if you're lucky. And they'll point you to some article they wrote, 10 years ago. Whereas if you are a subscriber to one of their service programs, they will give you a phone number to call, and you can bump right to the front of the queue depending on how much you pay for that service package. So it happens all over the place. In fact, if you go back to your chiropractic clinic, some chiropractors, some dentists will carve out that 4 to 6 p.m. window that most people want because it's on the way home from work, that 4 to 6 p.m. window, and they'll say that's only for our subscribers, right? We only book appointments during that window for our subscribers. This is another variation of front of the line. So front of the line is basically just allowing people to pay their way to the front of the queue through a subscription. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, and that's so key. I mean, having recurring revenue, man, when different companies, when they shifted, when the economy shifted, hey, I had to shift what I sold, but having a nice base coming in every day, every week, every month, man, the game changer, right? I'm still able to travel and not freak out while I make my new thing, whatever it is. But man, it's so nice having that.
I personally lived this, Wes. This goes back 10, 12 years now, I guess, maybe more. I used to run a market research business, and we started off in the classic selling basically projects. So a typical project would be $40,000, that kind of thing, and we would do the research, send an invoice, wait to get paid in 30 or 60 days. Classic sort of sell-through business model. And I can remember when we hit $100,000 worth of expenses, meaning our payroll, our rent, the lights, electricity, et cetera, amounted to $100,000. I had one of those kind of shocking moments where I sat back and thought, oh my gosh, every month I have to sell $100,000 worth of projects just to tread water. like $100,000. It was just one of those feelings which was just overwhelming for me. I kind of was growing the business. I never really thought about it until I realized that if I don't sell anything tomorrow, though all those mouths still need to get fed, that rent still needs to get paid. And that's when, that was the triggering event that ultimately changed that business model. We moved to Project Sell Do to basically a syndicated market research model where you've seen companies like Bloomberg, Michael Bloomberg's company, Thomson Reuters, where they basically sell you a subscription to their information. We made that change as well. And that became a precursor to, we ultimately sold that business to the company that's become Gartner Group, which is a billion-dollar company on the New York Stock Exchange. But it would never have been interesting to that as an acquisition candidate if we didn't make that shift from sell-do projects to subscription-based research.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how did you make that transition from running a small business, being frantic, to now consulting big business? Most people don't make that shift.
Well, to be clear,
stay small in their small town, join the Chamber of Commerce, and
to be clear, I no longer. So the former company that I used to own was a quantitative market research business, and our niche was helping big companies. eBay, IBM, Google, Apple, Facebook, all these big companies, help them understand the SMB segment, small, medium business segment. That company was acquired in 2009. I took a couple of years off, and then I started Value Builder, where I wanted to take some of the lessons I'd learned over some different businesses and help entrepreneurs improve the value of their company. So today, I run this company called Value Builder, where we've helped now 35,000 business owners improve their value over time. So I no longer consult with big companies, help them reach small businesses. That was the former research company. But today, it's really about trying to impart some of these lessons that I learned, frankly, the hard way, to business owners who want to really build an asset as opposed to a job, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm already linking to the Value Builder system because you've got a 13-minute survey there where they can get their Value Builder score?
Sure can, yeah. So basically it takes about 13 minutes. It's free, and it'll ask you a set of questions. And what I've heard from people is that just going through the questionnaire will help you think about your business in a similar way that an acquirer would think about your business. There's similar questions that a potential acquirer would ask you about your company. So it can even be interesting just going through it because you sort of see your company through the lens of an acquirer. And then at the end, you get a score. As I mentioned, the average score is 59. So over roughly 35,000 businesses now, the average score is a 59 out of a possible 100. For those that score a 59, on average, they're getting offers of 3.5 times their pre-tax profit. For those that achieve a score of 90 or greater, they're getting offers of 7.1 times their pre-tax profit, or more than double. So you can, at the very least, take the questionnaire and then see sort of where you sit relative to the average, which is 59, and then that sort of best in class, which is anyone over 90.
Very nice. Well, I have linked to all of that, linked to your books, Built to Sell, Value Builder System. All right, final question.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I am.
I like to get that in, record it, that when they admit that they're ready. It's a doozy. So, our listeners, if they're like me, they're at the gym, they're on a plane, they're driving somewhere, maybe they can't take notes. I don't want them to just listen. I want them to do. As a result of listening to this, as soon as they get to their desk or they're not driving, what should they do to move their business forward after listening to this?
I would like them to do TVR, Teachable, Valuable, Repeatable. Put all the products and services up on a whiteboard and isolate one with the potential to scale. In other words, rate your products and services on how teachable they are to employees, how valuable they are coming from your company, and how repeatable they are. And I think that's the first step in creating a more valuable company. I guess if I could have two, since you said it was a doozy, I'll answer it twice. The other thing to do is hop over to valuebuilder.com, get your score. You can just sort of see the 8 drivers and see how you're performing on that. So that would be a second thing that folks can go do.
Okay. Yep. And like I said, we're linked to that. So it's valuebuilder.com. Okay, I'm going to make sure I got this right. I have valuebuildersystem.com. Is that where we want to go?
Yeah, we own the URLs, both valuebuilder.com as well as valuebuildersystem.com. So all roads lead to the same place.
Okay, gotcha.
You'll get to the same spot.
Valuebuilder.com is shorter, so y'all go there if you're typing on your thumbs, all right?
Yeah, hopefully you're not driving and doing that. Go home.
Voice the text. Tell it to go there. Very nice. All right. Well, John Warrillow, all the way from Toronto. I'm booking my trip to come see you. We're going to go get some quality fast food.
Absolutely. I'm coming out to In-N-Out Burger, and you can educate me on these frozen.
Very nice. Well, thanks for coming on the show. It's been great catching up.
Cool, man. Thanks.
Told you that was some good stuff. TVR, Teachable, Valuable, Repeatable. That's a writer downer. I'm telling you, I put it in bold. I wrote it down. Ask your customers, why do you buy from us? Go listen. Recurring revenue drives value. Do you have a recurring revenue model? Most of you probably do not. Figure out how to add it. If you need help figuring that out, call me. Let's talk. I do private coaching. 90 days. I don't tie you down. We don't get married for life. I help you quickly. Let's figure this out. Okay? It's hard to read the label from inside the bottle. From the outside looking in, I'm telling you, I've worked with thousands of people over my years of having the Sales Whisperer, and thousands more even before then. It gave me the skill set and the ability and the confidence to go out on my own with a family of 7 at the time. So give me a call. Let's talk. Let's figure this out. I'll show you some of the ways I've built a recurring revenue model and how I'm adding additional streams, because 1 is a lonely number. So add more than 1. Okay, but you got to start with 1. So we went over the 6 different forms of recurring revenue, simple consumables, sunk money consumables, subscription revenue, sunk money subscriptions, auto renewal, contract revenue is the best. That's where I've been playing for years. Okay, so let me help you figure that out. Like I said, check out makeeverysale.com. Stay tuned. Join the private group for free, the Implementors. If you leave me a 5-star review, take a screenshot, email me, wes@thesaleswhisperer.com. I will send you a free PDF version of my sales training flashcards, how to overcome your toughest objections. I sell this thing for $20. You're going to get a digital copy for free. So let me know. Let me know you're out there. Okay? Now go sell something.